Luke chapter 22, verses 47 through 53. Here we are looking at the moment of Jesus' arrest, of Judas's betrayal, Peter slicing off the high priest servant's ear, and a little comment on the end from Jesus to these guys about their actions. And we'll learn a lot as we go through it. So here we go. It starts in verse 47. While he was still speaking, and this is speaking to the disciples, a crowd came up. And so to arrest Jesus, there is an entire crowd here, not just a couple, guards to come do this, but this begins to show us how much Jesus is hated. There are many people who want to be part of this arrest. The leadership of the nation is very eager to arrest Jesus. While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. You have a crowd of people coming up to arrest Jesus, and who is leading them? Judas, one of the 12. So this is just a incredibly sad, heartbreaking moment to see one of the 12 leading the crowd in the arrest of Jesus. And lastly, we see that he approached Jesus to kiss him. To give this fake greeting, we know from other gospels that that was going to be the sign of who to arrest, which tells us that some in the crowd, maybe particularly the guards who are there, don't even know who Jesus is. And so Judas is going to show who he is by kissing him. We'll go to our plot line here, and we'll start at verse 47. Judas leads a crowd to betray Jesus with a kiss. Common greeting in this day and age. And yet Jesus, get this word but Jesus asked him, Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? Right? There's just this question here from Jesus. Are you betraying the Son of Man? This is an important title. It's been an important title all throughout the book of Luke. It's going to come up here in a little bit during Jesus's trial. Jesus is very clearly calling himself the Son of Man throughout the entire gospel. Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss? Just kind of asking, really, Judas, with a kiss? Which just adds to the betrayal. It just heightens it. That in a false display of love, the Son of Man is betrayed. There are two lessons for us here. The first lesson is about sovereignty. Once again, Jesus knows what is happening to him, why it's happening, what Judas is doing. Nothing is outside of his purview here. And not only that, it teaches us, I think, about a kind of personal betrayal. Judas is betraying Jesus for 30 shekels of silver, for the approval of the crowd, if you will. And it's these outward displays of affection that sometimes Christians give to God. We outwardly are giving a display of affection to the Lord, but inwardly we're pursuing our own goals, our own motives, our own sometimes just straight up sinful desires. I think of how many times someone has served the Lord, but really to do it for the approval of man. And I think that is one way in which we betray the Son of Man with a kiss. So, one, a lesson on sovereignty, and two, a lesson on personal betrayal here. So I'll go verse 48. Jesus confronts Judas is um, betrayal, teaching us about sovereignty and betrayal, our own sin. So that's what we see in verse 48. And already just in these two verses, we kind of get our own little mini lesson right there. Our own little mini lesson. All right, let's go back. When Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, Lord, should we strike with our swords? So we got that when. This is just a little temporal marker. So they see the crowd come up. They're not quite sure what's going on, but once they figure out what's going to happen, that Judas isn't leading a welcoming party. Judas is leading a party of arresters. I mean, just the gut wrenching feeling they must have had looking at Judas in this moment. But when they figure out what's about to happen, remember they had two swords, right? That was the what they brought to the garden. And Jesus like, it's enough. He's not saying right like, yeah, that's enough swords to go fight off this mob. Lord, should we strike with our swords? And this gets to the kingdom, right? This gets to the kingdom the Messiah is bringing to earth. Normally, we would strike with our swords. Normally, we think you establish a kingdom through bloodshed. So this is really the heart of the question. You know, should we strike with our swords? Bigger picture. Do we build the kingdom by force? Okay. So verse 49. Should we strike with our swords? Do we build the kingdom by force? And Jesus is going to say, like in other gospels, he's going to make it very clear, like, no, it's not by force. The kingdom is not of this world. We're not going to get people to believe in Jesus by saying, repent or die. That's not how the kingdom of God is going to go out into the world. But verse 50, one of them, the other gospels tells us it's Peter, one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. So the high priest, right, his servant is attacked. Peter does this, cutting off his right ear. My guess would be that Peter was going for more than an ear, but failed to. And this is, you know, now the example, right? So now Peter has cut off the ear of the high priest's servant. Should we strike? Not waiting for an answer. Let's strike. That's what's happened here. And so Jesus's response to this action is going to tell us everything. If Jesus is like, yeah, great job, or get him, or everybody pick up a weapon, all right, then we're on the right page. But if his response is other than that, then we're going down the wrong path. Verse 51, Jesus answered, no more of this. And he touched the man's ear and he healed him. You know, the Jesus healing his enemies in the middle of his arrest. This is the love of Christ on display. He is teaching us how to love our enemies. No, don't chop down your enemies. Love on them. No more of this. The answer to the question, how do we build the kingdom, is not through the sword. So this question up here that was asked, Lord, should we strike with our swords? In essence, does the kingdom get built through bloodshed? The answer is unequivocally no. No, that is not how we make converts. We love our enemies. He touched the man's ear and healed him. So verse 50 is verse 51. To me, would be the high point of this whole thing. 51. Jesus teaches us once again to love our enemies, and that the kingdom is built through loving sacrifice. Loving sacrifice is how the kingdom is built. And then we get this kind of closing lesson in this arrest sequence. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him. This is almost the entire Sanhedrin. It's not everybody, but it's close. The chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, the elders who had come with them, this is the question he has for them. Am I leading a rebellion that you have come to me with swords and clubs? A very simple, clear question that is going to be relevant throughout the rest of Jesus's trials. Am I leading a rebellion? Up here, right? What just happened? Jesus healed the man's ear. It is clear that Jesus is not a rebel. He's not here to usurp the Romans. He's not here to overthrow anybody. He's not leading a rebellion. He's not leading a revolution. That you have come to me with swords and clubs. It would make sense to bring weapons if Jesus were leading an army that's trying to overthrow everybody, but he's not doing that, right? So Jesus' question, very, very simple here. Verse 52. Am I leading a rebellion? Right? Very simple question. Do your guys' actions have any justification? Of course, the answer is no, right? No, Jesus is not leading a rebellion, and no, their whole display here is just for show. It's not genuine in any way, shape, or form. Verse 53, Jesus points out, hey, every day I was with you in the temple courts, right? You could have done this anytime. Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you didn't lay a hand on me. So you had the chance to do this, right? Verse 53a, you had the chance to arrest me all week. All week. And then verse 53b, but this is your hour, the hour when darkness reigns. This is your hour, the hour when darkness reigns. The your here is a heavy your hour. We have to remember that Satan is inside of Judas this very moment. This is Jesus speaking not only to these guys, but even then to Satan, and to just acknowledge, yes, Satan, this is your chance. This is your chance to bruise my heel. This is back to Genesis 15. This is your chance, right? The hour when darkness reigns, when the enemy gets to have his way, when it all goes perfectly for Judas and for Satan and for the chief priests and the officers and the elders who had come for him, the hour when darkness reigns. Now, it is literally nighttime, right? This idea, it's literally nighttime, but that's just a cover, right? When it was day, when they were in the temple courts and it was light outside, they did nothing. But it's darkness now. There's nobody present. And God is allowing you guys to have your hour. Jesus, totally not. This is your hour. But God obviously is going to use that to bring about salvation, to crush the serpent's head, to bring freedom and life to his people forever, which is what God always does with evil. When he allows it to fester and to present itself, it is always to bring about ultimately this reconciling work. And in this moment, then we're just being told, hey, this is the hour for the bruising of the heel, and the fact that they're doing it this way proves that they are under darkness and not under light. So, this question, am I leading a rebellion? The answer is no. The second point, you have had the chance to arrest me all week. So, now verse 53b, the fact that you do this now proves you belong to the darkness. The way that they arrest Jesus proves that they are up to no good. He calls them on it as they do it. Do they change? Of course not. They just continue on with exactly what they've been doing. And so we have an arrest that clearly shows Jesus to be the righteous one. Oops, 1 second. To be the righteous one, while the elders are evil. And we get that earlier lesson too. And I think the bigger one of the whole thing about how the kingdom is going to be established. So back to our plot line. If you wanted to, you could make there a plot, a plot bubble here, a plot bubble here, and then a third, here. In many ways, there are three lessons in this, three mini sorts of moments. But I think overall, the big one here is at verse 51 that the kingdom is not going to be won through war or bloodshed, but through loving sacrifice, through the loving our enemies. And just meditate on that and think about getting the gospel to the ends of the earth that way. Blessings.